It's Fans Corner. Welcome to it, and thank you so much for making time for us. We are still in the FIFA break, the international break, in the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers from the African continent. We've just watched Benin against South Africa out in Ivory Coast, a home game for Benin, but hosted in Ivory Coast due to infrastructure challenges for Benin, and that game ending in 2-0 in favor of Bafana. Those very, very, very important 3 points acquired by Bafana in this particular game. I cannot stress enough how important these 3 points are for South Africa, especially considering what's happening off the field due to what happened in the previous game against Lesotho. But yeah, that takes South Africa to 13 points, 5 points ahead of Rwanda, 5 points ahead of Benin, because those two teams are on 8 points apiece. Nigeria follows just behind them with 7 points. I'll talk about Nigeria as well, because as I was watching the game between Bafana and Benin, one eye was also watching the game between Nigeria and Zimbabwe, because I had serious interest. I saw so much interest on that particular game. But yeah, Bafana, that's the most important game that we are going to talk about now. 3 points acquired, like I said, 13 points, still on top of Group C, leading those teams like I've just mentioned now. 4 games to go. If we win all our games, we qualify. Regardless of what happens off the pitch, I think if we win all of our 4 games remaining, we qualify. But let's talk about the game. I think Bafana in the first, this game was quite similar, I think, to the game against Lesotho, the one that we played in Polokwane a couple of days ago. I think in the first half we did create a few chances and we could not convert them. In this particular game, I think there were more of semi-decent chances, not the same as the ones that we created in Polokwane. This time around, it showed that we're not playing at home, but still we're in command. We had most of the ball position. I think, according to the statistics, we had 58% of the ball. So we're in charge. We're in charge of ball position, even in an away game, which was quite impressive from Bafana. I was really, really impressed with how, especially, we dealt with the midfield in the absence of Teboho, Mokoena. The talent and butter fitting in like a glove there. Doing what needs to be done together with Batusi Obas there. I was very, very impressed with this Bafana, how they really stood their ground. And the passing going forward was very impressive. It's unfortunate that the final touch in the final third was not coming, especially in the first half. In the second half, we took our chances. We saw Lyle Foster getting a cross from the left-hand side. Just the smallest of touches. Yes, the ball crossed the line, barely crossed the line, with just a few inches on the other side of the goal line. But at the end of the day, the whole circumference of the ball crossed the line, and that put Bafana 1-0 ahead. After that, I think we tried to manage the game, while Benin looked really frustrated, because this is the home game. They have to collect points in a home game. Even though it's not hosted at home, it's their region. It's still played in West Africa, far away from the Southern African region. So it still was an away game for us. It was more of a home game for them, even though it was not played in their home soil. So they looked really frustrated after we scored that goal, and we got the second goal. Beautiful header by Jaden Adams. Second goal in his second game. I mean, what more can you say? The boy is on cloud 9 now, putting South Africa 2 goals ahead and securing the very important 3 points. Because at the same time, while that was happening, while South Africa was leading by 1-0, I was also watching the Nigeria versus Zimbabwe game. Zimbabwe really, the game was playing in Nigeria. It was a home game for Nigeria. At that particular time, I was watching the game and I was thinking to myself, my biggest worry here is that these Nigerians are getting momentum at the right time for them, and I was really worried. But fortunately for South Africa, and unfortunately for Nigeria, they didn't win that game. They ended up throwing by 1-1. Victor Osimhen put them ahead. But unfortunately for them, and fortunately for us, because I feel like if Nigeria was the ones who was chasing us and too close to us, I'd really be worried. But I'm not to disrespect the likes of Benin and Rwanda. I just feel like in the contest between Bafana and Nigeria, most of the time we've come second best to Nigeria. So I was glad that they did not win. They're still on 7 points. They only got 1 point at home. Because at the same time, when we were leading 1-0, they were also leading 1-0. And I thought to myself, if Benin gets an equalizing goal there and Nigeria win that side, it becomes a difficult game, because that would have put Nigeria at 9 points, and it would have left us at that time it would have left us at 11 points if we draw our game. But in the very last minutes of the game, the Nigerian game against Zimbabwe came and scored an equalizer, and then in the I think it was 90 minutes plus one. Can't remember who scored that game. I celebrated that goal more than I celebrated the Bafana goal, because on the context of what happened off the field. Because you see, the story that broke actually, how I got to know of the story earlier on was through a Nigerian Nigerian media. Let me say, I think it's a Nigerian YouTuber who actually broke the story for me. That's how I got to know of the story of Teboho Mokoena being ineligible for the game against Lesotho and having played that game, which means if they are found guilty of fielding an ineligible player, chances are we are going to forfeit the points that we won against Lesotho, which got Nigerians more excited than Lesotho, because the game did not really affect Nigeria. It was a Lesotho versus South Africa game. So in that way, Nigerians felt that because they are starting to win their games, now it looks like it's going to open manna from heaven. They might just slide through and pass us at the top of Group C, because they are starting to win their games and we would be deducted points. But little did we know that they would slip up against Zimbabwe. I was so impressed with Zimbabwe, the way they held their own. They went there with the game plan. They did not try to outplay Zimbabwe. They played when they needed to play. I know that was a game that I watched with one eye, here and there, watching it and watching the Bafana game. Washington Arubi really held his own and helped the Zimbabwean team to gain a point in Nigeria, which then would bring it back in the context of the entire group. Means now Nigeria are 6 points behind South Africa, which means even I feel like if we win our next game against Lesotho, it's going to be very difficult for Nigeria, because after Lesotho, I'm not sure, but I think we have Lesotho, then Rwanda, then Nigeria. I think if we win those two games, by the time we play Nigeria, it won't matter anymore, even if we get points deducted, because I don't think this Nigerian team are going to win their next two games. I've watched them, especially in this game. They're playing at home, packed stadium. They couldn't break down that Zimbabwean team. So I think in as much as they are excited that we might get points deducted from our tally, it might not really favor them, because I think by the time they do that, we'll probably be a little bit ahead if we are to win our especially the next two games. And what makes me even more optimistic is the fact that I learned just recently that all remaining four games are going to be played in South Africa, because the other game is against Rwanda. It's a home game for South Africa. Remember, we played against Rwanda in Rwanda and we lost that game. So the game against Rwanda will be played in South Africa as a home game for South Africa. The game against Lesotho as a home game for Lesotho will be played in South Africa. The game against Zimbabwe will also be played. So all the remaining four games will be played in South Africa. So I think if we really stand up as South Africans and go to pack up those stadiums, even those that are not our home games, I don't see us really slipping up that much. Even if we do get points deducted from Bafana, I think we still stand a very good chance because of the lead that we have at the top of the group there. But it also raises a whole lot of eyebrows and questions. It is 2011 back again. 2011 was even more embarrassing because of those pictures. Still have those pictures in my head of the likes of Itumeleng Khune doing the dance of shame at the touchline after thinking that we had qualified for the AFCON 2012, and unfortunately we had not qualified because we did not understand the rules. And I'm saying we because that was, I can't blame SAFA alone there, because I think the media should have also done its job. It's a South African media excuse me at the time should have done their job. They should have known that goal difference was not prioritized when two teams are neck on neck on points. It was head to head, because that's how CAF works. Okay, I can understand the embarrassment there, but it was all of us as a country should carry that blame. But this particular one, should really, really be pointed at SAFA, because here's a player who was ineligible to play against Lesotho. The coach does not know about that, because that's not the coach's job, honestly speaking. It's the team manager's job, from what we are hearing. They should know so-and-so is suspended, therefore cannot be selected for the next game. They have to sit this game out. And Teboho Mokoena should have set that game out. And quite honestly, I still think we would have won that game, even with him outside, okay, without being fielded. So now, you know, in as much as I'm pretty sure you can see, from what we've been seeing over the past couple of games, you can see South Africans want to support this Bafana. South Africans really want to get behind Bafana. But the challenge that has been happening is the fact that there's this drift between Bafana, SAFA, and the fans. I think to a certain extent, SAFA has failed us. In this particular game, it's definitely SAFA that failed us, because if you are going to be docked 3 points because of fielding an ineligible player, then SAFA must take the blame. Especially someone as a team manager who deals and manages the team sheets. They should have known that a player like this has been suspended. I understand. Many of us were confused because we didn't. I really did at first when I saw the video on a video of that Nigerian guy talking about South Africa fielding an ineligible player. I thought to myself, they're probably joking. It's probably a prank, because there have been so many games before this particular game against Lesotho, and I thought there were some of the games, you know, it's a continuation. But remember, there were many competitions in between from the beginning of remember, this qualifier started a while back. I think in 2023. That's when Teboho Mokoena is said to have received those yellow cards. And then in 2024, most of the games that were played by Bafana were qualifications for the AFCON, the upcoming AFCON, which is going to take place in December. So because of the many games that have played since then, we kind of forgot about the qualifiers, the World Cup qualifiers that took place. But that's not our job. We are supporters. We're there to support the team. And that's what the team manager should have actually picked up. That's why I'm saying sometimes it's very difficult to support Bafana because of things that are happening in SAFA. You'll hear people saying negative things about SAFA, about things that are happening at SAFA. So as we speak right now, remember a few, I can't remember when, but there was a time when the SAFA offices were raided by the Hawks. You see, there's a lot of things that are happening not in the right way at SAFA. But right now, what's holding this Bafana team is Hugo Bruce, the players, and the supporters, because the supporters have been really behind this Bafana, especially under this current coach. I don't think there has been any coach in South Africa who has seen so much support from the fans of South Africa, especially as a coach of Bafana. Yes, he may have complained about not getting enough support from the likes of PSL and also from SAFA as well, Hugo Bruce that is. But us as supporters, I mean, think about all the games that Bafana has played, where we've packed up stadiums, which is something that has not been happening for a long time. But now we have supporters coming to the stadium to support Bafana, and you have something like this, such an embarrassment at an This is not Nambiti FC or this is a national team where there are people who are hired to do certain roles, and they should execute their job. In other countries, has role. In South Africa, unfortunately, there's no accountability. You might find that it's just going to be brushed aside. Yeah, it happens, and then they'll move away. But I'm just glad that Zimbabwe, they came through for us, honestly speaking, because I feel like had Nigeria won against Zimbabwe, this was going to be a very, very difficult situation for us. I'm glad Nigeria dropped points, because they were the ones who were more excited. You go to social media everywhere, they are the ones who are talking about this story. Actually broke from Nigeria. So a lot of Nigerian journalists on Twitter, so a lot of it's called X now, a lot of these football podcasters as well, talking about this particular issue of Teboho Mokoena being fielded against Lesotho. They were more excited about this because they thought that they could benefit from this, and I'm glad that right now Zimbabwe has kind of put water on that fire that was burning, but the issue is still not over anyway. We still need to win all our games. If we win all our games, even if we are deducted 3 points, we are still going to the Americas, Mexico, America and Canada in 2026. I am very happy and optimistic about this Bafana, and long may this continue. We are going to come back to these particular qualifiers in September and October, which will be the last 4 games, 2 games in September, 2 games in October, and that will be the end. By then we'll know who qualifies, and I have a strong feeling that we are definitely going to be able to qualify. As for the Nigerians, I know there's this bad blood between these two countries from many angles, I know from a social perspective and also from a sports perspective, but I'm just glad that for now they are 6 points behind. Okay, we just need to win our games to make sure that we keep them at bay until the end of this campaign. Otherwise, this has been Fans Corner. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for liking our videos. Thank you so much for watching as well. Tell your friends to tell their friends to tell their friends to also check us out here on Fans Corner. Thank you so much for your time. We meet again in the next one.